Today we will cover Srimad Bhagavatam, um, one of the verses in the prayers of Queen Kunti. So we will first start with Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So today we will be covering this particular verse, number 28. So Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 28. This is one of the verses from the prayers of Queen Kunti. So before we recite this verse, let's recite the invocation verses for Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shlokir bhaktir bhavati naishtaki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so should I display my screen or should I just, you all have it already there? What would you prefer?
We have the, for me at least 5.
Okay, so I'll recite the verse and maybe some other devotees can also recite afterwards. Manye tvam kalamishanam anadi nidhanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmitha kalihi. Manye tvam kalimishanam Anadi nidhanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yamitah kali manye tvam kalam ishanam Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum Samam Charantam Sarvatra Bhutanam Yanmita Kali. Would somebody like to repeat?
Manye tvam kalameshanam anadi nidhanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kali.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anyone else?
Manye tvam kalam eshanam anadi nidanam vibhum samamam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kalihi.
Manye tvam
Thank you, Prabhuji.
kalam ishanam anadi nidanam vibhum samam sarantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kali. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhuji, earlier. Anyone else?
Manye tvam kalam ishanam anadi nidhanam vidhu samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kali.
Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else? Okay. If no one else, then we will proceed forward. So, synonyms. Manye, I consider. Tvam, your lordship. Kalam, the eternal time. Ishanam, the supreme lord. Anadi Nidhanam, without beginning and end. Vibhum, all pervading. Samam, equally merciful. Charantam, distributing. Sarvatra, everywhere. Bhutanam, of the living and beings. Yat mitah, by intercourse. Kalihi, dissension. Translation. My Lord, I consider your lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kunti Devi knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her paternal house. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as the Supersoul, Paramatma. Another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant actions are destined by Him. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeed for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion, and therefore He knows everything, past, present, and future. And because the Paramatma feature of Lord Krishna destines all actions and reactions, He is the supreme controller also. Without His sanction, not a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are the good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by eternal Kala. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. It is all predestined by eternal time. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have happiness also without being asked. For they are all predestined by Kala. No one is therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to lord it over the material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He is all pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activities. And because the Lord has no beginning or end, he is known also as the eternal time, Kala. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll recite the verse once more. Manye tvam kalameshanam anadi nidhanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kalihi. My dear Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. So this verse is one of the verses in the prayers of Queen Kunti. And just before this verse, Queen Kunti has spoken one of the famous verses where she says that the Lord is about to leave for Dwarka from Hastinapur, and Queen Kunti cannot bear the separation from Lord Krishna, so she is reciting these prayers in glorification of Lord Krishna, and with some hope to try to stop or delay his departure to Dwarka. So a few verses earlier, she said that you have saved us from all these calamities, and that has allowed us to be fixed in your devotional service. And therefore, let those calamities continue to be there so that we can remain fixed in our devotional service to you. And followed by that, one who has all the opulences, all the good things in life, those are not the qualifications, or they don't create the right mindset for devotional service. Whereas the Lord doesn't see those things as important qualities or qualifications in a devotee. However, the Lord protects his devotees, even though they may not have any qualifications, any material possessions, etc. And here she is continuing her prayer. So that section was a sort of a ending of one of the sections within Queen Kunti's prayers. These prayers of Queen Kunti by various acharyas have been divided into various sections of verses. And this verse number 28 that we are reading today is the beginning of a new section within the prayers of Queen Kunti, which comprises of 4 verses, 28 to 31. And maybe at some other time we can go through all the verses of the prayers of Queen Kunti and looking at each section and sort of their coupling between them. So this verse number 28 is the beginning of a section of verses which are connected to each other. And this has especially been described very nicely by Srila Jiva Goswami, where he gives different meanings of the word samam, how each word can be interpreted and explained in a different way by various Vaishnava acharyas. So we will see, if there is time, we'll go into that. So to summarize, so this verse is basically describing the Paramatma aspect of the Lord. That is the meaning that Srila Prabhupada is focusing on. So here, if you like, when we read the purport, is saying that she knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as the super soul, Paramatma. And another name for that Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. This is also the same meaning as given by Srila Jiva Goswami. And Srila Prabhupada is saying that Kala is eternal time. That we know. Kala means eternal time. And therefore, that is the witness of all our actions. Kala is witnessing all our actions. And therefore, Kala is the same as Paramatma, because Paramatma is also witnessing all our actions. Also, we know from the Bhagavad Gita that Paramatma is the sanctioner. He sanctions all our actions. He destines all our actions. And therefore, that Paramatma, who is the supreme controller, is Ishanam. So that is how the connection is made between eternal time and the supreme controller. Here we see Kalam, Ishanam. So that is the connection, that you are the Kalam and Ishanam, the eternal time and the supreme controller, through the Paramatma aspect. Then, one of the words that is very important in this verse is samam. Samam means equal. Here Srila Prabhupada is translating samam as equally merciful. So samam charantam sarvatra. Charantam means he's going around, and Srila Prabhupada is translating as distributing. So going around and distributing everywhere. So he's equally distributing his mercy everywhere to all the bhutas, all the living entities, bhutanam, who are, entangled in material nature and creating their karma and basically suffering and enjoying the results of their activities. That is the Yanmitah Kali. So Yanmitah Kali means they're entangled in material nature. And suffering and enjoying the results. However, so the living entities are entangled in material nature, but the Lord is equally distributing his mercy to everyone in a very just way. So what does the just mean? The samam, very just, or very neutral way. We'll see, we'll talk about that as well. And so this Paramatma is also Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum. That's in the B part of the verse here, in the second quartlet, Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum. He is eternal, Anadi Nidhanam. Anadi means with no beginning, Nidhanam means no end. So Adi or Anadi, no beginning, Nidhanam, no end, and Vibhum means that he's all pervading. He's everywhere. Vibhu is the opposite of Anu. Anu means very, very localized. He's not everywhere. He's at a very local point. And the antonym of Anu is Vibhu, which means he's everywhere. So this Paramatma is everywhere. So this is basically, this verse is describing the Paramatma aspect of the Lord by Queen Kunti. And so that is the essence or gist of this verse. And the focus of Srila Prabhupada is on the Kala aspect, that the Lord is Kala and Paramatma. He knows everything that the living entities are doing, and he is the supreme controller. He is controlling or destining all the actions and reactions. So that I feel, or at least there's a similarity from that angle to what Srila Prabhupada has purported on to what Jiva Goswami has written about this verse. However, very wonderfully, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given another different meaning of the word Kala, which is also equally sweet and wonderful. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Kala means the destructive aspect of the Lord. So you are the Kalam Ishanam. So we say, no, Kala. Kala means the destructive aspect. That's also, we understand that from various, reading of Bhagavad Gita and various other portions, that Kala destroys, or the destruction aspect is Kala. So Mother Kunti is calling Lord as Kala, or the destroyer. And then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur goes on and explains destruction of whom or what. So he describes that Lord Krishna is the destroyer of the enemies. So in all the purports of Srila Prabhupada, of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he is very, very focused on giving translations and purports that are very, very purely immersed in bhakti. Many of even the Bhagavad Gita verses, the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is very deeply embedded in the mood of bhakti. So here also that is evident that Kala is not just the Paramatma aspect, the all-knower, the all-sanctioner, but he is the destroyer of demons, of those who offend the Lord. So in that sense, he connected the Kala to Samam. Kala is the destroyer, where he's destroying or devouring the demons who are offending the devotees, and therefore he is being just. He is being Sama. Sama means being just. So there are 4 aspects of the Lord being just. So this is also very nicely, a very beautiful description. How does the Lord be just? So the Lord can be just in the following 4 ways. The first is, the Lord is just, and this is beautiful, and there is no sort of logical explanation, or not a very deep logical explanation to it, without relying on the Vaishnava bhakti understanding. But after sort of being in the movement of Srila Prabhupada and understanding a lot of the purports of Srila Prabhupada, we can easily understand how samam, or being just, can be thought of in these 4 ways. So the first way the Lord is just is by being attached to the devotees. So Lord's attachment to the devotee is his being just. So very wonderful that the Lord is just because he is attached. So that's kind of a oxymoron, that you're just means you should be equal to everyone. You should not be specifically attached to someone. But he is describing that the Lord is just because he is attached to the devotee. The other aspect of the Lord's being just or being neutral is being indifferent to matter, being indifferent to everything that is material. The third aspect is that he gives, and this is sort of the more logical aspect of the Lord being just, is that he gives assistance to some and destruction to others based on each one's karma. So he gives whatever is the fair share, what they deserve. And finally, the fourth way of being just is the opposite of the first one. So what was the first one? Being attached to his devotees. And therefore, the fourth one is the destruction of the offenders of devotees. In that way, he is just. So very nice meditation on the meaning of the word sama or samam. And
Krishna Prabhuji.
yes, Mataji.
Third one, first one is being attached to devotees. Second one, indifferent to everything in the material. Third one is
Indifferent, not, everything to matter. Or
matter.
Not there's a slight difference. Not everything in the material world, because the jivas are also in the material world. So those are two things that are classified between points 2 and 3. 2 means being indifferent to matter, everything that is material, not everything that is in the material world. Because the third one is by sanctioning assistance or destruction to the various living entities based on their karma.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Need to close my Outlook. Mail notifications are coming. Okay. So and then so because and in this way the Lord is very just to everyone, including the devotees, the neutral people, and the demons. So he has covered all the entire, and just dead matter. He's covered the entire spectrum of creation. I'm just thinking whether to go into this section or not, because we're already at 8:35. Okay. So another way, so this is from the book Prayers of Queen Kunti, where additional, apart from the purports of Srila Prabhupada, additional purports have been given, which have been abstracted from his lectures on the various verses. Srila Prabhupada has spoken extensively on all the verses of the Prayers of Queen Kunti, as we have heard in previous classes. Srila Prabhupada, these prayers of Queen Kunti were very, very dear and very close to the heart of Srila Prabhupada. So he has spoken very nicely on all the verses. Many verses he has spoken multiple times upon. So in his lecture that he gave in Los Angeles in 1972, I think, Srila Prabhupada says that, also brings out this aspect that the Lord is very just in killing the demons or in destroying the demons, the destructive aspect of the offenders of the devotees of the Lord. So how is he just in that? What is just? He's committing an act of killing, and Srila Prabhupada is going even further than Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and saying he's not just destroying the offenders of the devotees, but the Lord is actually very favorable, very merciful on those demons. And because when the Lord kills a demon, everybody has to die. So the Lord killing the demon is nothing special. It's just that the demon has met his or her death one way or the other. But when the Lord kills the demon, the Lord is actually killing all the sinful reactions and all the demonic activities and demonic propensities of that soul. So those are all being killed. Sarva papebhyo moksheshyami. That's what he's doing. Without the demons surrendering, he's doing sarva papebhyo moksheshyami. He's delivering the demon from all the sinful activities in one shot. So without sarva dharman parityajya, in fact, quite the opposite. With no dharma parityajya, he is giving sarva papebhyo moksheshyami. So he is delivering the demon from all his sinful reactions, and the demon becomes completely purified and he gets liberated. So this is the merciful nature of the Lord. So the Lord should have kept that demon suffering in the material world, kill his body, give him another birth, so that he suffers for millions of lifetimes for offending a devotee. But the Lord does not do that. So the Lord takes away all the sinful propensities and gives liberation. That is the merciful nature of the Lord. So very beautifully, Srila Prabhupada was describing in his lecture, this is the merciful nature of the Lord. And the Lord is similarly going around everywhere. Charantam, samam charantam sarvatra. So in this way, he is going around everywhere being just. So we described or discussed those several aspects of being just, and especially being just to even the demons. Now here we can see the similarity, the Lord is delivering the devotees and the Lord is delivering the demons, both. So in that way, he's being very just, very neutral. So we can get even those who are not so familiar with the essence or the sweetness of bhakti can also begin to appreciate the neutrality of the Lord in his treatment of devotees and demons. He's being very, very neutral or very, very just. One second. So, and in this way, the Lord is moving around everywhere in the whole universe, or is even present everywhere. Charantam sarvatra. He's going around distributing his mercy. And then Srila Prabhupada gives very nice example like that of the sunshine. The sunshine is present everywhere. Where is it not present? It is not present in a closed room with all its doors and windows closed. That is where sunshine is not present. But the sun is distributing its light and heat everywhere equally. It is not discriminating who is a devotee or who is a demon or who has, what qualities. All we have to do is open the doors and the windows of the closed room to receive the sunlight. So in the same way, we have to accept the mercy or this justness of Lord Krishna in our life. And when we accept that just or that neutrality, within that neutrality is the mercy of the Lord. Just like we saw in the example of the demons, it may seem that the Lord is being very neutral by killing the demons who are offenders, but within that so-called act of destruction is hidden the wonderful act or that wonderful potency of mercy. So similarly, when we accept Krishna, it may appear that we are accepting some of the consequences of our past karma. When we stop hankering for material things or stop hankering for material, maybe revenge or some kind of retribution, these are all the products of our false ego and our material propensities and our attachment to sense gratification. But when we accept the Lord's mercy, in that acceptance is the element of accepting the Lord's destiny, which is being spoken here in this verse as the destiny as destined by the Paramatma. And when we accept that destiny, as a as a sanction of the Lord Himself, then within that acceptance of that destiny is embedded a lot of mercy. Because when we wholeheartedly accept the outcome as a mercy, as a prasad of the Lord, then we are actually making devotional progress. And there may be some suffering or some pain in that act, but the Lord realizes that we are accepting it as a result of our past karma, and the Lord diminishes that. The Lord will reduce that for His devotees, will give us some token suffering, but ultimately it will be the best, absolute best outcome for our soul. So very nicely, so that should be the mood of all of us, to accept any pain and suffering that comes to us as a result, or treat it as a result of our past actions, sanctioned by the Lord, and accept it as a mercy of the Lord. And actually then sooner or later we will see the real mercy of the Lord embedded within that acceptance. There are several similarities between the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj and Queen Kunti. So I just wanted to show one very beautiful verse that I found in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. So let me see. I believe you will see the screen.
Yes, Prabhu, we can see the screen.
So this is a verse, 7th canto, 9th chapter, 27th verse, where Prahlad Maharaj, these are among the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj to Narsinghadev. And I'll just read the translation here. Unlike an ordinary living entity, my Lord, you do not discriminate between friends and enemies, the favorable and the unfavorable, because for you there is no conception of higher and lower. Nonetheless, you offer your benedictions according to the level of one's service, exactly as a desire tree delivers fruits according to one's desires and makes no distinction between the lower and the higher. So very similarly, Prahlad Maharaj is also praying to Lord Nrsimhadev that you're neutral, you don't make any distinctions between friends and enemies. And just like a desire tree delivers fruits according to one's desires and makes no distinction between the lower and the higher. So that is absolutely true. And in the Lord will give the fruits that we desire. Now the question is that we need to know what to ask from the desire tree or from the Lord. We can ask for suffering and we will get suffering. So when we ask for something, nobody goes and asks for suffering from the Lord or from a desire tree. But they don't know when when it is said that you ask for suffering, they are actually asking for some comfort or pleasure, material pleasure, but they don't know that these things will bring suffering in the future. That is the problem. And so that is what we can ask for, and then suffering will come with them, or we can ask for things that will give eternal happiness. So, but the Lord will distribute His mercy equally to everyone, because the Lord is everything depends on Krishna. he is the ultimate controller, and we are no one. He controls everyone and everything. So very nice verse here. Let me see. It's 8:47. I have several more things that I had thought we can share, but I'll probably end with I'll just end with this one thing, that the final instruction that I thought we can meditate on from this verse is that happiness and distress will come one way or the other. Even happiness, so this is the verse that we were going through today, and somewhere in the purport it is written that even happiness comes, the Kala offers conditioned souls both happiness and miseries according to our past actions. So it's not like we have to work very hard for the happiness or something like that. The happiness and distress will come of their own accord. We don't have to work very hard for happiness or do, we shouldn't have that mentality. So there's this another very nice verse also in the instructions of Prahlad Maharaj. Where did that other tab go? Okay. This is in Canto 7, Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is where Prahlad Maharaj is instructing his classmates. And in the third verse, Prahlad Maharaj continued, "My dear friends born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress." So very similar point, that happiness and distress, they come automatically without our trying. It will come. The verse goes like kalena, or so anyway. So we should not endeavor too hard for happiness. And finally, ending with this wonderful verse from the Bhagavad Gita 4.22, which says that yad richa labha santushto, one who is satisfied with the gain that comes of its own accord. So yad richa, out of its own accord, labha santushta, whatever labha comes, one should be santushta, one should be satisfied with what comes. And then the verse goes on to say, one who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. So he will not be entangled in this yan mitha kalihi. So he will not be entangled in material nature, and he will always be happy. So we must invest, we must open the doors and windows of our heart and welcome Lord Krishna in our heart, especially his names, the holy name of the Lord. And then we can hope to follow in the footsteps of great devotees like Queen Kunti, and try to make forward progress in our devotional life. So I will stop here. It's 8:50. I'll see if there are any comments or corrections. And if not, I had some other points prepared. We can cover those as well. I'm sure I made many mistakes. So you're all wonderful devotees. Please let me know where all I said something that was not sanctioned. Please offer your thoughts.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I had a question, Prabhu. I don't know if I'm understanding it in the wrong way. I'm sure I am, but Queen Kunti in the previous verses said that the high parentage, high education, those are the disqualifications. The kind of purpose was mentioned in the purport as well for devotional service or progressing in devotional service. But in the end of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one is a successful yogi, unsuccessful yogi, maybe short term, long term, I mean, a long term, will get a birth in the high rich aristocracy, family, and all kind of thing. So even it's so like he's getting a birth in that kind of family, but whereas Mother Kunti is saying that high education or rich parentage can be disqualification. So could you help me reconcile that, Prue? I'm sure I'm understanding somewhere is wrong. I'm sure, but could you help me reconcile that?
No, you're pointing out a good point. My understanding is that here in verse number 26, what it says is that it is a impediment to approach you with sincere feeling. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, when Arjun is asking what happens to the unsuccessful yogi, if you see, there is a spectrum that is painted by Lord Krishna. He says that if you have been unsuccessful after little progress, then you get a birth in an aristocratic family. But those who have fallen off after making prolonged progress, they actually get birth in the family of transcendentalists and devotees. So there is that spectrum that is being painted. So first of all, after making good or whatever relatively more progress in devotional path, you don't get this birth of great opulence, beauty, strength, higher education, and all those things, but you get birth which is very, very devotional. So that is one sort of assuring point. The context of the other aspect of the Bhagavad Gita of having parentage or a birth in a well-to-do, materially well-to-do situation or a materially well-to-do family with good body, good strength, good intelligence, is so that that enables one to not have to worry about, it creates conducive circumstances for making progress in devotional life. So when these aspects are present, then it is easier to make progress in devotional service because of the bodily ailments or bodily discomforts being absent. However, it is a double-edged sword that with these bodily discomforts being absent could lead one to sense gratification, could lead one to lording it over material nature, and then one goes down the slippery slope of sense gratification. However, my understanding is that Lord Krishna also says in one of the verses in the 6th chapter towards the end that not only he gets this birth, he does get the birth, but he also revives automatically without even him desiring. He revives the devotional propensity from his previous life. So when you mix that revival of the previous life's devotional progress and mix it with the material benefits or material comforts that have been provided in this life, then it blossoms or it fructifies into something devotional rather than going downhill into sense gratification. So perhaps we can look at some of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita and see what Bhagavad Gita is actually saying.
So it's a black and white picture, it's how you use what you got.
How you use what you got, but there is also the element of divine intervention. It's not completely left up to the devotee either. And let's see that. Look at 43 and 44. On taking such a birth, so any of those births, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress. So he is reviving the consciousness of his previous life. It's not just a material situation that is given to him, and then from there on, it's a flip of a coin. He can go this way or that way. And given material situation, chances are high that he will go down goes down the path of sense gratification, right? But that is not the case. The coin, first of all, he's given that favorable situation, and the coin is not flipped randomly. It is weighted. So it is bound to flip on the devotional side. He revives the consciousness of his previous life. And he says that he doesn't even have to try. He automatically becomes attracted to those principles of his previous life. So these two statements not only apply to the life of transcendent or the family when one takes birth in the family of transcendentalists, but even to the previous one where he is taking birth in family of rich aristocracy. And we can go into the Sanskrit words if you would like. And here it says Purva Abhyasena, that Purva Abhyasa, that prior practice is revived, and he is attracted by that. And then he becomes Jigyasur api. So he becomes curious. So he becomes curious in one particular direction. So even though he gets that kind of birth, it's not after that, it's not like a flip of a coin, whichever way he goes, it's totally up to his free will. No, his prior consciousness, Purva Abhyas, is revived, and then he goes in that direction. So it's a carefully planned operation by the Lord, so to say.
So there are 2% of devotees or devotee kids who are born in really good devotee families, but they don't take up to the process in the sense, if there are really devotee families and Krishna says that they get a birth, even though it's such a rare birth, but they get in that Vaishnava families, but they don't take up the process. So maybe they start, I've seen examples, they start with the process and they just go the other way. I said that. So
there can be
not to judge anyone, but yeah, just have to.
Yeah, so many things can be there, I mean, do you have a concrete example from scriptures? I mean,
No,
we
I've
may
seen
see
the
that
devotees
around
from.
ourselves, but there are just so many things,
Okay. Yeah.
How we are not the judge,
Right, exactly.
how devotional one is from the heart. One may wear Western clothes and speak Western or non-devotional language, but that's not a true measure of one's devotion. And we don't have the capacity to look inside the heart. We can only look at what's outside. And also, since we can't look inside, you don't know really. There may be one could be it could be anything. So, but the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita are absolutely sound and eternal. They are not wrong. Our observation of samples may be misplaced. We may think that this is a good sample in our sample set. It may belong to a completely different set. It may not belong, and therefore, if you put try to cook dal by using rice, it won't turn out like dal. It will turn out like rice.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for clarifying that.
That's my understanding, but other devotees, please welcome to add or correct. Any other comments or corrections?
Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice explanation on a verse that has complexity and goes into a lot of technical features, but ultimately describes Krishna's presence in this material world through his energy of time. I really like it. I like the purports of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and how he has a very sweet mood that comes through in all of his explanations in Gita and Bhagavatam. In the mood of Raj, basically. If I had been reading the prayers of Kunti with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanations, and they're kind of very intimate, where Srila Prabhupada, is trying to go at a different level of not assuming such intimacy for those of us who are at the initial states of bhakti. So thank you for connecting all the different Acharya Jiv Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I have not seen Sri Jiv Goswami's explanations on teachings of Kunti, so that would be nice to share if you have time. But thank you for covering all this statements. It's kind of nice because it's similar to Bhishma Dev's prayers, where he's pondering over why are the Pandavas suffering, and he says it's just inevitable time. So recognizing Krishna's omnipresence, and of course, as a result of that, Krishna's omniscient and omnipotent nature. So I like how this verse connects to some of Bhishma Dev's realizations as well. So thank you.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you. Jiva Goswami, I heard in a lecture, Jiva Goswami says that the next 3 verses, so like I was saying in the beginning of the class, this is a section of 4 verses, 28 to 31. So 29, 30, and 31, those are 3 different flavors that Queen Kunti is presenting to the Lord of his being neutral, which culminates in him being completely absorbed in his pastimes. The 31st verse is where Queen Kunti is saying, I believe, that you are so afraid of Mother Yashoda, and however fear personified is afraid of you, and this is just completely bewildering. So, and the point it seems that Jiva Goswami makes is that when Lord Krishna was afraid of Mother Yashoda, it wasn't just a leela. He was actually afraid of Mother Yashoda. He was shivering, and he was actually like panicking when he saw Mother Yashoda come to him to beat him up with the stick. So and that is the mood in which it seems Jiva Goswami has presented, and that is also another aspect of being samam, of being completely neutral, by being absorbed in his pastimes so much that he forgets completely who he is and truly acts like a small child who is shivering from the fear of his mother when she has caught him red-handed in a, as you say, with your hands in the cookie jar. So that's and the remaining 2 verses, the 29 and 30, also similar way, how the Lord is being samam through his various leelas and acts. So that's my understanding, Prabhuji, on that, on the explanation of Jiva Goswami.
Yeah, I think this is nice, especially given Krishna's Janmashtami celebration coming up. The amazing thing about Krishna, like you were talking about this pastime, with Mother Yashoda, etc., is that Veti Tattva, knowing him in truth is not so easy because has inconceivability, as an essential part of his nature. I was thinking about it, we come to this world because we have to lord it over the world. Krishna descends to this world. In the process of descending to this world, in this particular amazing descent as Bal Gopal, he forgets his lordship potency, and that's inconceivable. And that's just wonderful, that how that which we desire so much, Krishna rejects in this pastime, essentially. So that's one thing I found very interesting in that, in these pastimes that he has with the Brajvasis. And the second thing is that, this concept of Lord's neutrality, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about this fair amount. And he said, like you showed that nice verse from Prahlad Maharaj, where he's like a desire tree. And I think a lot of things in Bhagavatam, you will see one statement and you will see a seemingly contradictory statement. But that's also the inconceivable nature of the Bhagavatam, because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says elsewhere that the Lord's not exactly like a desire tree, in the sense that the desire tree has no attachment for that person who approaches it, just simply mechanically rewards the fruit based on the mere proximity to the desire tree. But the Lord actually, in the process of approaching him, develops attachment for that individual. I thought that was a very profound statement by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Anyways, thank you for elaborating even more. I want to give others opportunity to speak as well.
Thank you, Bro. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. Really appreciated the way you contrasted between, as Prabhuji said, the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami. I heard in different lectures that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is called as the Rasika Acharya, who is full of Rasika, and Baldev Vidyabhushan is Tattva Acharya. He's always, he's full of technical philosophical context in his commentaries. But thank you so much for the wonderful elaboration of the word. Like Mansika Mataji mentioned in the chat as well, on the word samam, and we explained how deep we may think it's superficially, it just means just or same, but actually has deep, profound meaning. And thank you so much for wonderful description and explanation, bro. Thank you so much.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami and all the other acharyas.
Yeah, Vishwanath Thakur. Thank you.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada